It is official. The new Chibi is live. What you're seeing right here is about where a newcomer would pick up, right after subscribing to Chibi. And from here, I'm just going to go through a really quick kind of, not really an onboarding, but kind of like an orientation of sorts of the new Chibi. And the first thing that you will want to do is set up your models. So the new Chibi is a bring your own AI type of setup. We support 3 providers out the gate. What I'm going to show you next is what it will look like by default when you go there. And you'll have some assistance up here. It says learn more in our help center. When you click on here, it'll take you to, we have guides that show you exactly step by step how to add models from each of these providers. Now I've already done that. So what I'll do is I'll just resync with my database and then I'll have some models here. And so I've got these models set up. These 2 are from OpenAI. I think you might recognize them, GPT-4 Turbo and GPT 3.5 Turbo. I also have Mixtral, Striped Hyena, and Snorkel Mistral. Sounds weird, but open source AI models tend to have some interesting names. But what this allows me to do now is that I can use any one of these that I want to throughout my content creation. But you have to have at least one of these, otherwise there's no AI for Chibi to use. So go through the help guide, add the models that you wish to use, and we'll have some more discussion on those models and stuff inside the community. And if you have any questions, feel free to go there. You can go up here to your profile, click on our Discord. That'll take you right over to our Discord server, our community, and we'll be there to help you out. Okay, so I've got some models made. I'm just going to click on workspaces here, or you can click on the Chibi. And so by default, this is what you're going to see. And it says this is where your workspaces live. Workspaces are like folders that contain your documents. So I'm going to create a new workspace and I'm just going to call it, testing demo. We hit OK. We get our testing demo workspace. And I'm going to edit this workspace here real quick. And I'm just going to put it's a place to test and experiment with content. Something like that. Now notice I can also set some default roles, but I don't have any roles right now, so I'll leave that for now. And after I update that, I've got a little bit more information on my workspace. Workspaces, you might build them. I've heard some of our early adopters, our testers, have workspaces around each of their blogs or certain client work and things like that. However you want to organize your documents. So I'm going to go into here and it says, looks like a shiny new workspace. Documents are where you craft content. So got this little arrow here. Let's create a new document. And this is what the Chibi editor looks like. We're in the testing demo workspace. That's denoted by the little breadcrumbs menu up here. On the left side, we have the side tools, we call these. Right now, it's just this, but as you have content here, this will change and adapt based on where you are in the content. Over here on the right, let me just close this thing down for now. Over here on the right, we have what are called edge tools. So we have text formatting, table of contents, roles, actions, memory, clips, global variables, chat, the prompt and rework that you just saw, notes, shared notes, export, and then the editor's settings. Let me just open that up real quick. The editor settings let you choose things like font, the weight of the font, the size, spacing, all that kind of stuff. So you can set up your editor to be how you prefer to work. Right now I'm in light mode, but dark mode looks like this. And I know that dark mode doesn't really record too well, so I guess the gradient kind of gets a little grainy. So what I'm going to do is just switch it back to light mode. Okay, I'm here. One of the first things I'll want to do is I'll come into roles and I'll come up here to the top right and I'll click new. What this does is it creates a role group. Role groups contain roles. It's kind of like a folder. It starts by default untitled, but I can click this little pencil here and I'll just say writing personas, maybe. And then I get this little green arrow here. If it's closed like this, you don't see that. But if you click on it once to kind of open it, there's nothing in it right now. But when you click to open it, you'll get this kind of menu. and I'll click that plus, and we'll put a name to this new role. I'm just going to say, I'll just call it Chibi Writer for now. Now I have the ability to add tags, and I can assign it to workspaces and stuff like that. That's for organization. We'll worry about that in the future. So let's update the settings. So a role will contain, you'll pick the model that you need. So I'm just going to go with mixed role. And then we give it some instructions, like we set it up, like how is it supposed to act. And I'll say you are a fantasy story writer. Your task is to write fantasy, creative, we'll just say creative fiction. Write in a, let's see, I think I've got some notes over here. Let's say, here we go. Let's say write in a fast-paced and dialogue-driven style with intricate and layered narratives. Now, this instructions is where you can kind of go as deep as you want. You can even give it examples of how you want to write. This is where you get to kind of train your AI in a sense. Then we'll go into controls. We know that we're a fantasy story writer, so let's up the temperature here a little bit. Let's give them a little bit more creativity. We'll raise the maximum length to about 300-ish is good. Same for top P. We'll move this up. We'll make it up closer to 0.9. Top K, we'll move it up to, let's make it a little bit higher. We're moving these things up because this gives the AI the capability of choosing more creative words, so to speak. All right, let's close that down. So I got my role set up. He's my fantasy writer. In fact, I'm just gonna come up here and double click on this, and we're gonna change this to Chibi Fantasy Writer. All right, and let's save, and we'll close that down. So now I got the Chibi Fantasy Writer. I'm going to click here. That's going to make it the default, or it's going to make it the active role for this document. And just really quick, let's go back to our workspaces here, and let's click here. And let's make that one our default role. What this means is anytime, let's just make it for the same one for all of them for now. What this means is that anytime I create a new document within this workspace, that role will be the default. Okay, so we can come into here now, and let's now create our first action. Now, actions are like, this is really the magic of this new Chibi, is you can build your own tools. So by default, if we take a look around, there's not really any, like the typical AI writing application out there. You've got templates or forms or tools or something they call them. And, it opens up some kind of form, you fill it out, you hit a button, and it generates content, but you don't really have much control there. Notice all the control that we had when we created our role, right? We can come into here, we can change the model, we can change our instructions to fine tune it just the way we want. We can change all these different settings here to make the AI act in different ways. And it's all now defined in this role. So I'm going to come in here into my actions. Let's create a new action group. Notice this looks very similar to the roles group. So it does follow the exact same pattern. So now we have an action group. This is like a folder that holds actions within it. I'm just going to go ahead and rename this to demo actions. And then I'm going to click the plus just the same way. And let's just say story intro is our task, or our action name. And I'm just going to use stream template. We won't go into lots of detail in this video for this, but this is, we call these task elements or action elements, whichever you prefer. And these are things that like they have functionality. And when you add them to your action, you can string them in a sequence to produce the results that you're looking for. In this case, the stream template element will take in basically a prompt, if you want to think of it that way. We like to call them templates. It's a little bit more closely matched to what I think it really kind of means. But if you're used to saying prompt, then prompt works. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say write an intro to a story about the tiny desert cactus on my desk. Tell the story from the cactus's perspective. Okay, let's go down and we'll add a little trailing. We'll just say intro. And then we'll go into the settings for this. And I could leave it as current role because right now the current role is that Chibi Fantasy Writer. But since I know that I've got that one specifically set up for it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the role. I'm going to keep it as Chibi Fantasy Writer so that every time I run this action, it always uses that role. I don't need to wait for this. This other stuff I will just leave as is. And let's label this to write intro. Oops. Okay, so now if we close that down, we've got our template and stuff here, and I'm going to save this. So this is an example of, this is hard coded basically, right? It's every time I click this run button here, it's going to write an intro about the tiny desert cactus on my desk and from the cactus's perspective. So if I click here and I click go, in the heart of the bustling city on a desk littered with detritus, is that how you say that? Of a writer's life, sat a diminutive desert cactus named Spike. Cool. Okay, so we've got our intro, and the way it wrote is the way it wrote. And this is all because behind the scenes, it's using that storyteller or fantasy fiction role. So that's how it knows how to write. So if I were to go in and change that role or add a new role that writes like in a cyberpunk sort of way or something, then it would write in different ways, right? I get full control over that. So you can imagine that if you have lots of different narratives or different ways of writing, or right now I'm writing creative fiction, but if you were writing a blog post for something, you would have a different role specifically designed for that, maybe. Completely up to you. Inside of your action, you also have the ability to set it to a custom settings, and then you have the settings that you had inside of the role, but right there inside of the action. So you can hard code those settings on an action or on a task by task basis inside of your action. So right now, this action only has one step, or we call them tasks. It only has one task. It's going to stream the content, so you saw it right into the editor. But if we look at this, write an intro to a story about a tiny desert, that's like hard coded in there, and that means that this every time I play, it's going to write that intro for that, and it's kind of not really a reusable tool very well, is it? So let's make some changes to this, and let's click this plus here, which opens up the elements to pick, and I'm going to pick ask for input. Let's close this thing down, and let's move ask for input to be first, so that it pops up. What this element does is it pops up a box and asks me to put some input in there. I'm going to give it a placeholder of enter the topic, and then that's good enough for that. Now we'll come down to here. Write an intro to a story about, and let's take this out, and we're going to click up here on this number 1. This copies the variable from this task so that I can use it here. And so what this means is that whatever I write into the ask for input pop-up will be injected right here, and then this task will then do its job. So let's hit save. I'm going to click over here once, get some focus on the document, click go, and I'm going to say let's change this to Miso Ramen in Tokyo. See how weird of a story we get from that. Go. Did I make a mistake? I might have made a mistake. Sorry, I paused and found what I did wrong, which is good actually to put this on video, because what I did was I made that change to switch this to custom, but I didn't pick the model or anything. So there's no AI model for this action to use. So I'm going to switch this back to select a role, fantasy, and then resave. So don't do that if you're, you know, when you're doing your work. But if that happens to you, then you know, hey, what to look out for. Okay, so now let's do that again. We'll say Miso Ramen in Tokyo and let it run. There we go. So right now there's a shop name, Miso no Kami, which would be what? Bean paste god. That's pretty funny. It wrote the intro. It wrote it in a story manner. You know, it followed what that role was designed to do. And there we go. And if you remember, I think I said it. Yeah, it's using Mixtral. I can change this up to other models on the fly if I want to. I can make it, you know, use GPT, GPT-4, or any of these others. What you'll find is that each model has their own kind of distinct taste or flavor to them, texture, so to speak. They write different. I don't like to say one is better than the other. I think it's best to say that some are different. So in your opinion, one model might be better for a certain type of task that you're trying to accomplish. And so use the models that you prefer. That's one of the great powers of this new Chibi, is you get to use a wide variety of models. You get the OpenAI models, you get the AI 21 models, and there's maybe 35, 37 something models that are available through Together AI. So as you experiment and you learn more and you start to figure out which models you prefer, you'll really start to get some really great results for yourself. So that's an action. That's just an example of an action right now. That is called story intro. I now have an action that's reusable. Anytime I need to write a story action, I can just come over here and click this button right here. I do want to show you one other cool thing. If I click this right here that favorites it, now over here in my editor, when I go down a line to a blank line, I have this, and story intro is here because I favorited it. And I can just run that directly right here inside of the editor without having to open this sidebar at all. I have access to run that action. I can also hit Command K and I can type it out and I can run that action from the Command K, or I can even click right here, which will take me directly to it to edit the action. So that's actions. We'll go down to memory. Memory is where you can add additional information for Chibi to use while he writes. It's used in a couple of ways. See, right now I have this thing turned on. So genre, we'll say horror suspense. And let's see, is that good enough? So we'll leave it as horror suspense as the genre. Have memory turned on, and we'll see what happens when I click write. If it will actually write in a suspense horror sort of fashion. Let's see if it does it. Like Tiny Miso Shop of Horrors. It looks like it's kind of setting the stage for it. Magic, what do you mean? That's pretty cool. Okay, so what happened here is that behind the scenes when I click that right button, horror suspense genre gets used. I could add other things like information that I have for my story, maybe my characters, my scene setup, a certain narrative thread that I always carry. That would be for like creative writing. If you're doing like blogging and stuff, maybe if you're doing about a product, you would have like the product description, maybe its unique selling proposition, the audience or the target customer, that kind of stuff. You could have put into memory, and then you'd be able to use that. Now it uses, I'm just going to go ahead and undo this. It uses it automatically when you're doing your writing, but it also becomes a variable that you can use inside of your templates. I'm just going to come down here and I'll click on this brain and I'll click genre. And that means that genre is now set inside of this action. But keep in mind that memory is on a document by document basis. So this genre variable would need to be, or in memory field would need to be in the document that you're running. So let me show you what that kind of looks like. Let me go to back here and let's just create another new document. Now this document is blank. Memory, see, it's empty. But if I click on actions, I still have access to all of my actions. And that's because I got a new document. I want to create my story intro. Cool. But the story intro right now is expecting to use genre, but there's no genre on this document. So I would need to remember to come in here and add genre. But there is another way that we can do this. And let's just get back to, let's actually delete this document. Give that a second, and we'll go into this document here. And let me show you. So let me just copy this content, and we'll turn memory off and delete this. Now we've got global variables. I'm going to come down to here, and I'm going to create new. Same exact scenario as before. We get a folder, basically. We call it the variable group. Click here, and I'll just say demo variables, and click on new. Don't really need to set any tags or anything for this, so I'll click next. The name of this variable is genre, and then I'll put this right here, save. Okay, so this is called a global variable, which means that now I have genre here, and it is available across all of my documents. No matter where I have them created, no matter in any workspace, inside of anywhere inside of Chibi, these variables are now available to me there. So if I have genre set here, genre will always be found. Now for global variables, like I click here, there's nothing. But for global variables, it's now showing up. So if you have certain things that you know that you'll need to reference from any document, that's when you'd put them inside of your global variables. And if you know that you have things that you're only using specifically on a document by document basis, then you'd use the memory area for that. So then we have clips, and following that exact same pattern, click here. We get the clip group. I'm just going to rename it to demo clips. And here you get the chance to set up some snippets. And what I'll do is I'll just say this is a really nice ramen shop. Don't know why you'd set this up as a snippet, but it's just an example. Okay, so this is a really nice ramen shop. What I can do is I can keep it on the clips sidebar. If I come over here and maybe I want to put that into the editor, I can just click and I get this passage written directly in to the editor. So it's like these snippets of text that you can have inserted into the editor. They're just nice little ways of doing it. Like if let's say that you're a blogger and you have a certain affiliate disclaimer that you might use for at the top of all your blog posts or something, you could set that up as a clip and then just insert that in one click instead of having to retype it every time. You could also use this for prompts. You can if you've got like things that are you want to have as like reusable prompts, you can take advantage of that. That's because you can do an inline prompt here. You could just say like write a single sentence about the history of Miso no Kami. And then I can hit Command Enter and it'll run that. And so that goes away. Then it's going to go out, do its thing, come up with some content. And there we go. The humble ramen shop steeped in tradition and culinary lore. Okay, so we have the ability to save those snippets that can be prompts just like that as well. Okay, so we've gone over that kind of stuff. Let's go down to chat real quick because chat's an interesting one. Right now it's the Chibi Fantasy Writer role, and let me just move this thing over here. It's the Chibi Fantasy Writer role because there aren't any other roles created right now, right? And so let's just leave it at that. Now, down here in the bottom right, we've got this little triangle or diamond here. And if I click it, it sort of creates a stack. So we call these context layers. One context layer is chat only. 2 is chat plus in document, and 3 is chat plus in document plus anything that's in your memory. I think most of the time, you'll use 1 or 2. Adding in memory could be an important thing sometimes. That's why we have it there. But I think most commonly it'll be 1 or 2. Now, something interesting about layer 2, What it does is it doesn't see your whole document by default. It sees wherever your cursor is. Like right now, it's right here at the end of this. It sees from there up. So that gives me control of what content from the document is being used. Or I can also select a passage. And so I'll select that and I'll come over here and I'll say expand on this. Expand on this with 2 layers, run. There we go. Bustling days, the Edo period, it's miso infused broth. It sees what I had highlighted and is working off of that. So that's pretty cool. And that's chat. So you get a nice little chat sidebar. Now, one of the really nice things about this is that you can, if you leave this as chat only, you essentially have, and just pretend that you have like lots of roles, and certain roles maybe are your research assistants or different types of writers, your editors and that kind of stuff. If you got things set up that way, you can use chat with its own completely separate role from what the document is using. Remember that here I have this check mark up here, but if I'm in the list, I have this check mark here. When you have more roles, they won't have a green check mark next to them. The green check mark means that this document is currently using this role. So anytime I come over here and I click this right button, it's going to be using this role. This right button just is like in many AI writing tools, you have a button you can click and it'll write more content here for you. In Chibi, we also have one that's called finish. So I'm at the end of a sentence that has no punctuation. I can click here and it'll write just to the finish of the sentence for me. That gives you a little bit of a way to do like an AI dance, where if you need to add a little bit more content somewhere, and instead of going straight to an action, you can dance with the AI right there in the editor. And I think one more thing to showcase before we wrap this video up is the rework tool. So let me highlight this, and I'm going to click on this rework tool, and notice that this content gets copied over here. This rework tool gives you the ability to rework that content, and all that work happens on this side. And when you're ready, you can put it back into your editor. So what I might do is, let's see, change ramen to sushi. See if it can follow along. There we go. Sushi no Kami, the humble sushi shop steeped in tradition. So you can do some changes to your content, make it more, make it darker, richer, layered, intricate, post-apocalyptic, whatever you want to do to that content. You can do it over here. And then when you're ready, I'll just go down a line. You come over here and just insert it into your document. And that gives you a nice way to work on things separately. You can also change the roles, and you can actually on the fly make adjustments to what the role is set up as. These changes that you do inside of the prompt and rework area do not update your role. So you'll be making your changes here just for the moment that you're using it right here in the rework. So you can swap between the roles, and if it's not quite reworking the way you want it, you can make your adjustments here just for the once while you're doing your reworking. Same thing with the controls. You have all access to the controls and everything. And you actually have a space here you can add additional information for the AI to be aware of, and then while writing. So if you've got certain unique knowledge, or like maybe you have a product that there's no way that the AI has ever been trained on it before, it would have no idea what your product is. You can put product description and details and stuff like that in here, and then the AI would be aware. Prompt history is what you get to do. You can come up here and you can see the different things that you've done. Right now it's change ramen to sushi, but if you want to clear that out, you can just click here to remove it. But you'll have a history of the prompts that you had used previously, so you can go back to them nice and quick. Okay, so those are the main tools just to get you kind of started really quick. Now, actions is where all the action is. These give you crazy amounts of capability. And I think what I want to stress is that you have that full control now, that if it's even remotely possible with AI, then you can do it even better with Chibi, because you get to define everything in your roles so they're nice and quick and reusable. Then you get to build out your workflows in your actions so that it matches exactly the way that you like to work, the way that you like to write. And this is what we mean by by having your own AI content workbench. That's what Chibi is now. You get the ability to kind of build and craft and define your own tools. And once you have your toolkit built, you can imagine how productive you're going to be. You need to write that intro, click. You need to write the next thing, click. You can have all your stuff set up and ready to go. We've had some testers who've even done things where Chibi will go and completely analyze their document, offer suggestions, come up with a new content strategy plan, and all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure we're just scratching the surface. So I can't wait to see what you do with this. But as always, if you ever need any help, please go to the Chibi community, where we'll be waiting pretty much every day. And we plan to be sharing actions and showcasing things that you can do within your Chibi. All of our early adopters are in there too. So if you have any questions about what they experienced during the last 6 to 8 months while we've been developing this, feel free to ask. I've given everybody full, everybody's open to say whatever they want about it now that we're launched. And thanks for being here. And I hope that you find this interesting. I hope you find it a breath of fresh air. This new Chibi doesn't have any limits, doesn't have any constraints. Whatever you can build, you can build. And going forward, if we find things such as these elements here, if we find new ways of building new elements that give you even more capabilities, then we will. And please drop your feedback and stuff in the community, ask your questions, share. If you create really cool actions, please come up here, like this button. Where am I? Right here. This button right here, when you click this, will copy the action so that you can actually paste it inside of the community and others can import that action as well. If you want to learn how to export and import actions, just check the Help Center. We've got a document on how to do that. And please do. I'll see you in the community. We're ready to help. Anything you need. Hopefully we see you in there soon. And until next time, take care.